Hello everybody, my name is Martin. This is my take on this. So I'm actually changing the content a little bit, still a take on things obviously, but I'm not actually reviewing a video anymore. I'm actually talking about one. Then we will have a section where we have a mystery guest that's actually very well known, has a global presence. And at the end, I actually give my take on that information. So today we're talking about how home prices in the US are falling fast. And this is actually an analysis of Michael Bordinero's video from last week. And so in this video, he actually talks about how price cuts are on the rise, meaning people have to lower the prices of their houses they're selling, which obviously is important because overall the prices are just way too high, right? And everybody knows that. However, everybody thought they can make a quick buck with these rising home prices. So he said that there's about 20% of all the houses in the US have price cuts. And it's actually in the lower price range, between $350,000 $500,000 range. It's 21.6% of houses that have price cuts. Interestingly enough, the one in the $1 million price range, million and above, only have about 13.3% price cuts. And obviously, when you think of it, yes, people that can spend $1 million plus, they have a little bit more wiggle room to actually say, well, I can still just pay, 100,000 more or something like that. So it's not that important to have all these price cuts, right? So with that in mind, it's also the issue that the median house price right now is about $430,000 in the United States, which is actually a very, very high number. Just think of it, actually only 30% of the population is able to afford a house in that price range, which is actually ludicrous. It should be more like 60, 70% of people that are able to afford a house. But with this price, median price, it's just impossible for most people, right? So going on, he's actually then talking about that the houses are on the market now for about 62 days. That's about 10 days more than a year ago. And that's actually already quite a high number. I know some realtors in Florida, and it used to be like, let's say 20, 30 days. I think they say if it's like around 50 days is kind of a normal thing. So 62 days is already quite high. And it's expected that it actually still goes up, right? So he also talks about tiny homes and homes you can buy on Amazon, starting at 5,000, going all the way to 100,000 and more. And I'm a little bit skeptical about that. Not that I don't like tiny homes, but I don't think there's a real value there. And I will talk about this actually in my take on this after the video, after we went through this video and through my mystery guest, right? And then we can talk about what I think about the tiny houses and how you actually can get a real house for pretty much the same price. So yeah, let's talk about the zoning for these tiny houses. So there's a couple of problems, like in many areas you actually have to have a regular size house on the plot. For example, it needs to be like a minimum, let's say 1,500 square feet. It needs to have all the specifics to actually qualify that it's allowed to build there. Also, when you think of it, if you need water and gas and electricity, it's the same price if you have a tiny home or if you have a regular house on that particular parcel of land. So that could be like, $10, $20, even $30,000 to get that all set up, which is a significant cost. Thinking of if you buy a tiny house, let's say for $20,000, and then you pay 25,000 just to get it connected, versus you buy or build a house and the connection is still 25,000, but the house maybe is 150, 200,000. It kind of makes a little bit more sense. But we'll get into that later. So now let's actually see what this mystery guest has to say. Okay, so welcome. We have our mystery person here that is connected to all the global databases, so we can ask whatever we want and hopefully get a good answer on that. All right. So, hello, mystery man. What do you think about housing price cuts as inventory adds up in the United States currently?
Hello. The current situation with housing prices and inventory in the United States is quite interesting. Here are a few thoughts. 1. Inventory increase. As more homes become available on the market, it can lead to increased competition among sellers. This often results in price cuts as sellers try to attract buyers. 2. Buyer advantage. With more inventory, buyers have more options, which can lead to more favorable terms for them, such as lower prices or negotiated concessions. 3. Interest rates impact. Higher interest rates can also affect housing prices. When rates rise, borrowing costs increase, which can put downward pressure on home prices. 4. Regional variations. The impact can vary by region. Some areas might see sharper price cuts than others depending on local economic conditions, job markets, and migration patterns. Overall, while price cuts can benefit buyers in the short term, the long-term market dynamics are influenced by a combination of these factors. It's an evolving situation to keep an eye on. Is there anything specific you'd like to know more about?
Yes. Which markets do have the biggest price cuts in the United States?
As of August 2025, several U.S. housing markets have experienced notable price declines. Austin, Texas saw median listing prices drop nearly 15% over the past 3 years. Miami also faced a significant decrease, with prices falling around 19%. Other cities like Los Angeles and Denver have seen declines in the range of 3% to 4%. These trends are influenced by factors such as increased housing supply and changing buyer demand.
What do you think? Why are lower priced houses have more price cuts than, let's say, $1 million plus houses?
Lower priced houses often experience more price cuts than $1 million homes for several reasons. 1. Higher demand. Lower priced homes attract a larger pool of buyers, including first-time homeowners and investors. This broader demand means sellers may need to adjust prices more frequently to remain competitive. 2. Faster market turnover. Lower-priced homes tend to sell faster, but also face quicker price adjustments if they don't sell quickly. 3. Affordability constraints. Buyers in lower price ranges often have tighter budgets and may negotiate more aggressively for price reductions. 4. Higher competition. There are often more sellers in the lower price range, leading to more competition and the need for price adjustments to attract buyers. 5. Economic sensitivity. Lower-priced homes are more sensitive to economic changes, interest rates, and local market dynamics, which can lead to quicker price adjustments. Overall, while both low-priced and high-priced homes can experience price cuts, the higher volume of transactions and more competitive nature in lower-priced markets can lead to more frequent price adjustments. Do you have a specific area in mind?
I would like to know if like tiny homes have an impact on prices, that overall prices might actually go down a bit because there are more tiny homes available now. What do you think about that?
Tiny homes can indeed have an impact on the housing market, and here's how. 1. Affordability. Tiny homes are typically more affordable than traditional homes, making homeownership accessible to a broader range of people. As more people opt for tiny homes, it can increase the overall supply of affordable housing. 2. Market segmentation. Tiny homes cater to a specific segment of the market, people looking for minimalist living, lower costs, or sustainable living options. This can lead to a diversification of housing types, potentially affecting prices in the traditional housing market. 3. Land use and zoning. In some areas, tiny homes are being integrated into communities, sometimes as accessory dwelling units, ADUs. This can increase housing density and potentially lower prices in specific markets by providing more options. 4. Supply and demand dynamics. As tiny homes become more popular, they add to the overall housing supply. If demand doesn't keep pace, this could exert downward pressure on prices, especially in certain regions. Overall, while tiny homes offer an affordable housing option and can influence local markets, the overall effect on traditional home prices can vary by location and market dynamics. Would you like more details on specific regions or trends?
Yes, please. If you have some more details on specific regions where there are the most tiny homes currently, that would be nice. Thank you.
As of 2025, Texas leads the nation in tiny home communities with 16 recognized areas. Colorado follows closely with 20 communities. These states have embraced tiny home living due to favorable zoning laws, supportive local governments, and a cultural inclination towards sustainable and minimalist lifestyles. For example, Texas offers flexible housing regulations, especially in rural areas, allowing for diverse housing options. Similarly, Colorado's numerous tiny house festivals and communities reflect its strong support for this housing trend. Other states, like Virginia, South Carolina, and Tennessee, also have notable tiny house communities, though they rank lower in the number of such communities compared to Texas and Colorado.
So yeah, thank you for the mystery man. As you can imagine, it's AI, obviously. How else would you get like connected to a global database with all the information, even pretty much up to date? Which is actually awesome for things like this, that we can ask what is going on out there in the world, in the economy and everything. So the future videos will always have this type of section in there. So my little guy right down here, Mr. MM, he will be the mystery man in the future. So now actually my take on this. And so what I actually think is that in general, and it kind of looks like 2008 again, to be honest. The thing is that Americans have to understand that the house prices will not always go up. And I'm pretty sure they will go down in the future. And in some places they might go down way harder than what you think, just because it's not sustainable. If a medium house price is $430,000 and only 30% of people could actually afford that, it's not sustainable. So it will not work. And because of that, prices need to come down. You also have to remember that often these houses, like if you go back to 2008, 2010, when things went south, prices were down, let's say, 50, 60% in places, right? So you could actually buy houses for 150,000. The same houses right now, they're more going for 450, 500,000. And what always gets me is you got to understand nothing happened that that house actually is worth that much. It doesn't have all of a sudden like golden faucets in it or a golden toilet. It's still the same house it was 15, 20 years ago. So there's no reason why this price should go up that much. You always have to remember that. One other thing that I actually always say is, why wouldn't people actually go on and build houses themselves? Yes, it is hard work and it will take at least a year to do so. But when you actually calculate on the cost of building a house, you can build a house for like $100,000, $150,000, a 2,000 square foot house, because the material actually is not that expensive. I just did a calculation like 2-3 months back. I'm sure it's still pretty much the same right now. And it's actually not that much, but people pay 400, 500,000 for a house that actually is only worth, if you will, new 150,000. Just think of all these big builders, D.R. Horton and so on. They can build these houses very, very cheap. And so they actually make quite a bit of money on top of us, on top of the consumer. We should just actually look more into that and say, no, this is not what we want. So people actually should say, well, I just buy a plot of land, get a house plan, get all the necessary approvals and certificates from your local government, and start building yourself. With that, you actually will have equity in the house. And you don't need such a big mortgage or not a mortgage at all. You might be able to just build a house with the money you have. Just think of it. At the end, you don't need actually like extra house insurance for it, because there's no mortgage on it. And because you build it yourself and the overall house, let's say, cost $100,000, you might actually only pay $1,000 a year for your property taxes. So just think of that a little bit. I think actually this would be quite a good thing for Americans to do, because in other countries that's what people do. A lot of people actually get a friend who has a digger or something like that, or they rent one at Home Depot, and then they dig out where the concrete base is going to be or where a cellar might be and so on. And then, setting up the perimeter of where that base will be, that's all not really rocket science, right? Getting the drainage there and so on. You can look up all those things. And then building the structure itself, which is actually a great thing that American houses are built out of wood. You should be able to build that yourself. It's not that hard to actually cut pieces of wood and the dry walls and these things. It looks a lot. It is hard work. There's no question about it. You will make mistakes. But overall, I think it's actually a possibility for people to just say, okay, take some friends, family, and so on, and build houses yourself. Yes, it takes a while, but you can actually make quite a bit of money. But you got to remember, so if you build a house yourself, you usually cannot sell it within the first year of it being certified that you're allowed to live in it. So it's usually, depending on state, that you have to live there at least for 1 year before you can sell it. But nevertheless, just think of it. You pay, let's say, $150,000 for the plot and the house, and then 5 years later you move and you can sell the house for $350,000. That's a pretty good profit in a short period of time that you can actually make with that. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. And as I said before, when it comes to tiny houses, you might look at $100,000 too with a tiny house. Yes, you get it already kind of, let's say, pre-built. It's easier to set up and everything. You might actually be half a livable house within, like a month or two. That is all true. But then again, selling that tiny house, you don't really get any money out of that. So it's like a hit or miss. I would much rather say, okay, invest the work. It takes a year plus to do so. But at the end, first of all, you're way satisfied with what you've done. You're proud of yourself, what you and your family, your friends have achieved. And at the end, you have, a regular sized house, 1,500, 2,000 square feet, right? So you might actually want to go for that, building the house yourself. That's actually what I would do if I'm in to actually buy a house. But yeah, that's, I think, is the right way to go. So yeah, I have the original video from Michael Bordanero down in the description. As said, I think house prices are way too high. There's no reason why they should be that high. We always have to think that houses are a necessity for people to live. It should not be to make a quick buck. So we should, always think of that fact. It's important that people have a roof over their head. And so because of that, I would not actually pay that money for these houses. They're not worth that much in general anyways. And as I said, they not all of a sudden have like golden faucets and golden toilets. So why would the price be like $200,000-300,000 more than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago? Makes no sense. We always have to think about the working class people. Their salary is not going up like 30, 40, 100, 200% over that period of time. So it's just not sustainable at the end. That's the important part that we have to remember. It's not sustainable. So yeah, that's it for this new style of my take on this videos. I hope you like it. I'm sure I have to tweak it a bit. Let me know what you think of it. And that's it for today. All right, thank you.